criticizing legacy news outlets since his first term as fake news. Some of Trump's attacks now have turned personal. Last month alone, saying "quiet piggy" to a female reporter, calling a reporter from the New York Times ugly both inside and out, and publicly telling an ABC News journalist she was a terrible reporter. The new portal also contains an offender hall of shame of articles the White House deems unfair, and a leaderboard ranking outlets with the most pieces that the administration objects to. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
FIFA has given its new Peace Prize to President Trump. It's an unusual break from tradition for the sport-focused soccer organization, whose president has become a close ally of President Trump. The ceremony happened today in the 2026 World Cup draw at the Kennedy Center. More details at srnnews.com.
Isaiah reminds us of who God is in Isaiah 46, verse 9. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me. A humbling reminder of our God in Isaiah 46, verse 9, God's Word.
Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Do you know Christ as your Savior? Learn of Him daily, right here on VCY America.
You're listening to VCY America Worldwide, KVCX Gregory, and WVIW Bridgeport.
History was made on today's date. Stay tuned for an American Minute with Bill Federer.
A signer of the U.S. Constitution who was licensed to preach? This was Hugh Williamson, born this day, December 5th, 1735. He studied divinity in Connecticut and preached in Philadelphia nearly 2 years till a chronic chest weakness convinced him to change careers. Williamson then entered medical school and during the Revolution served as Surgeon General to the North Carolina troops. As a scientist, Hugh Williamson joined Dr. Benjamin Franklin in many electrical experiments and wrote a book on climate, giving scientific explanation for the credibility of Noah's flood and Moses' exodus.
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. For a free transcript, call American Minute at 1-888-USA-WORD. VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And thank you for joining us on Crosstalk, coming your way from VCY America, Friday News Roundup and Comment. A little gravelly of voice today, but trust you'll bear with me today as we bring to you a number of stories from this week, matters that have been unfolding, lots of news. Matter of fact, even as we come on the air, there was just breaking news that came out, this from FoxNews.com. The U.S. Supreme Court has now agreed to hear the oral arguments over the legality of President Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship in the United States. This is a very high-profile case. If enacted, this would have profound impact on the lives of millions, and this is something that the U.S. Supreme Court has just agreed to take. We don't know a date for oral arguments as of yet, but it'll be very interesting to see this case get underway. Our thanks to Sandy for compiling so many stories here this week and putting them together for us. We've got lots of various topics to share with you today. We recognize, even as we share the news, that we recognize that our Savior is in control. God is in control, and we continue to realize and understand what He has before ordained will come to pass. His plan, His way is not going to be thwarted. He is coming back again one day, as He has promised, and we need to be faithful until He returns again. We are understanding of the times in which we live. We know that we have that mandate to go into all the world and preach the gospel. We are indeed light. We are indeed salt in our society as well. And so this keeps us better informed through these News Roundup programs and how we ought to live in such a time as this. We're going to begin today with a story from the Gateway Pundit. After nearly 5 years, the January 6th pipe bomber was arrested by the FBI yesterday. Brian Cole Jr. of Woodbridge, Virginia, taken into custody, charged with use of an explosive device and attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials. He is alleged to have planted pipe bombs in the RNC and DNC headquarters, and on January 5th, that's the night before the January 6th event in D.C. FBI Deputy Director Don Bongino said during a press conference yesterday that the FBI solved the case, get this, without any new tips or witnesses. Same information that the Biden administration had access to. The FBI identified Cole based on his phone pings and transaction history on his credit cards. They identified one bank checking account and 6 credit cards that he used. He purchased multiple items consistent with the components that were used to manufacture the pipe bombs. Both of the bombs were manufactured using galvanized pipe, same size, using end caps, using a 9-volt battery connector with black and red wires, the white kitchen-style timer, mix of 14-gauge red and black electrical wire, both packed with steel wool. And in addition to that, he was found to have been purchasing safety glasses, a wire stripping tool, wire nut sandpaper, a machinist file for shaping and smoothing out metal parts, and also the disinfectant wipes and protective gloves, etc., etc. From the Western Journal, a report from the Daily Wire said that Cole worked for a bail bond company owned by the father that advocated for illegal immigrants. The report said Cole's father owned multiple businesses, one of which was Statewide Bonding Incorporated Immigration Bonds that works to get illegal immigrants out of jail. On November 10th of 2020, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed a lower court ruling that tossed out a lawsuit from the company against the Trump administration. November 21, this company brought in Benjamin Crump, a lawyer who specialized in civil rights cases and represented the family of Trayvon Martin, using the Biden-era Department of Justice to investigate a local Tennessee prosecutor. There was Cole Sr., said Rutherford County DA Attorney John Zimmerman. Concerns about the company's ethics amounted to racism because he is black. They said documents indicated Cole was near the scene of the GOP headquarters at around the time that the bombs were placed. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said the Biden administration chose not to pursue this case. From Headline USA, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has confirmed that he held a phone call with President Trump amid a major U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean and the threats of an attack on his country. He said the call, which occurred last month, was cordial. During my 6 years as foreign minister, I learned diplomatic prudence. I don't like diplomacy with microphones. When there are important matters, they must be handled quietly until they are resolved. They're having discussions anyways, and we understand the Venezuelan government has continued to cooperate on deportation flights. Caracas agreed to allow the flights to resume after President Trump declared that Venezuela's airspace was closed. From the Free Beacon, as President Trump warned Maduro to stop sending poison to our country through the narcotics trade or face military actions, his critics in the media downplayed the threat posed by the Cartel de los Salos, arguing it is a leaderless network or that it doesn't exist at all. Matter of fact, many in the legacy media saying, no, this is no cartel. This is not a real drug cartel. It's not a cartel per se, utilizing that. But keep in mind, the former Biden administration also referred to this as a cartel. From CBS News, 2 people who survived the U.S. military's early September strike on an alleged drug-carrying vessel were attempting to climb back onto the boat before it was hit a second time. A source familiar with the matter told CBS News Wednesday survivors allegedly tried to salvage some of the drugs. According to the source, appeared to be in communication with others at the time, and there were other boats in the vicinity that could have picked them up, the source says. Legacy media has really been going after Pete Hegseth on this, accusing him of ordering a strike on people who could not, they were just hanging on to wreckage, and that he had ordered them to kill them all. Well, folks, that we find out that that is not the case, and we found out that they were attempting to right the boat and get their drugs back into the boat so that they could continue their mission or pass them off onto somebody else. The Admiral, Frank Bradley, very clear that he was given no order from Pete Hegseth. Senator Cotton, who heads the State Intelligence Committee, said it was very clear he was given no such order. Okay, Newsmax.com, Russia has began evacuating its citizens from Venezuela, a sudden move that analysts say signals a major shift in Moscow's stance toward Maduro's embattled regime. Very interesting that they are pulling out. There is been a lot that has been going on as it pertains to fake news. And matter of fact, the Daily Caller points out that the White House has debuted a new page on its website aimed at lambasting media outlets over fake news coverage of the Trump administration. The website at the time of publication, the CBS News, the Boston Globe, and the Independent as the offenders of the week for their supposedly biased coverage of the president, calling out a video by the seditious 6 congressional Democrats who apparently sought to undermine the military's chain of command in so-called illegal orders if they were issued. Well, a week ago, Carolyn Levitt spoke against the fake media regarding the nature of the president's health. There's been a lot of press given to the president's health, and here is what Carolyn Levitt had to say.
I will point out one fake news story over the weekend before I let you all go from the New York Times that took about 1/3 of the president's daily calendar and his daily schedule and said that he's doing less than he did in his first term, or he might not be fit for the job. That is unequivocally false, and it's deeply unfortunate that this story was written by the same outlet and the same reporter who wrote this. Biden is doing 100% fine after tripping while boarding Air Force One. Oh, same outlet, same reporter who wrote that President Trump is not fit for the job. Are you kidding me? You all see him almost every single day. He is the most accessible president in history. He is taking meetings around the clock. Another one. Biden declared, quote, healthy and vigorous after his first presidential physical. I don't see headlines like that too often about this president. Again, same reporter, same outlet who wrote falsely over the weekend that President Trump is not fit for the job. I can assure you he absolutely is. You all see that with your own eyes on a daily basis, and the president's physician has now given you all 3 detailed reports on the state of the president's health. So with that, I will leave you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Isn't that amazing? How much of the media came to the defense of Joe Biden, and I mean, even the Easter Bunny had to redirect Joe Biden, and now the accusations coming out against President Trump that he's not fit for the job, he's not doing as much as what he did the first term, and on the allegations go. Well, from SlayNews.com, Democrat Senator Mark Warner is facing a firestorm after suggesting he believes members of the U.S. Armed Forces should save us from President Trump. The remark openly flirts with the idea of a military coup against the duly elected commander-in-chief. During an appearance on MS Now, Warner blasted Trump and Hegseth for removing the Obama and Biden-era DEI commanders and restoring traditional military leadership and warrior ethos. This is an administration, they said, that has fired uniformed generals from the head of the NSA, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, DEI commanders, and certainly has let them go. From Jihad Watch, interesting headline, Iranian-run, Soros-funded billboards are urging soldiers to disobey orders. This is not only seditious, says Daniel Greenfield, it is also a national security threat. Billboards are popping up outside Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, urging soldiers to disobey orders. Marines, not what you signed for, asked one. Did you go to Airborne just to pull security for ICE? Asked another one. The website urges soldiers to use encryption and offers counseling on disobeying immoral orders. The organization offering counseling to soldiers include the National Lawyers Guild, which is a communist organization also defending Antifa. From FoxNews.com's Governor Tim Walz is at the center of a widening scandal as federal prosecutors continue to unravel one of the nation's largest COVID-era fraud cases. The Justice Department announced new charges last week against the 78th defendant in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, which prosecutors say involved more than $300 million in stolen funds from a federally funded child nutrition program and has already resulted in over 50 convictions. Many of the individuals charged come from Minnesota's Somali community, and critics have pointed at walls. The Gateway Pundit also indicates that a 54-minute secret recording from a December 11, 2021 closed-door meeting inside Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison's office is resurfacing amid explosive revelations that 70 Somali community members in Minnesota participated in stealing. Some reports have been $250 million, some over $300 million in federal COVID child feeding funds. On the tape released by the American Experiment earlier this year, Ellison sympathizes with, encourages, and ultimately promises assistance to a group of Somali American business leaders, many of whom would later be charged or convicted in the largest COVID relief fraud scheme in U.S. history. Western Journal says Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced Monday that his department will investigate allegations that under the mismanagement of the Biden administration and Governor Walz, hardworking Minnesotans' tax dollars may have been diverted to the terrorist organization Al-Shabaab. Thanks to the leadership of Donald Trump, we are acting fast to ensure Americans' taxes are not funding acts of global terror. Allegations of massive fraud were initially leveled last month in a report by City Journal. In many cases, the fraud has allegedly been perpetrated by members of Minnesota's sizable Somali community. Federal counterterrorism sources confirmed that millions of dollars in stolen funds have been sent back to Somalia, where they ultimately landed in the hands of the terror group Al-Shabaab, the report states. We'll be back in a minute. A Friday News Roundup here on Crosstalk.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist and creation researcher with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, where do comets come from?
Chris, comets pose a very difficult problem for long-age evolution. Many of these comets are short-lived. They last only a few trips around the sun, but yet our solar system is full of comets. Therefore, it can't be very old. Evolutionists have proposed a hypothetical source of comets called the Kuiper Belt. Photographs from the Hubble telescope seem to support the claim. Unfortunately, recent studies of these same photos declare that the Kuiper Belt has not been found. There is no source of comets which would keep our solar system supplied with them. The Bible says that the entire universe was created in Creation Week, along with everything else. It's not billions of years old, and the evidence that we see supports this. Everything goes back to Genesis, and so it should.
Thanks, Dr. Morris. For more on creation, visit our website at www.icr.org.
It's a Friday News Roundup here on Crosstalk, covering a number of stories from the week. We're just talking about Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota, what's going on there. I mean, even as RedState.com pointed out, the Minneapolis Police Chief, Brian O'Hara, has advised citizens this past week, Tuesday, to call 911 if they see ICE agents, what they call kidnapping people. He says police will immediately respond and intervene. Interfering with immigration enforcement is a crime, it's reminded. By the way, also in Minnesota, OANN is reporting that MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell has filed paperwork for a possible run to be the next Republican governor of Minnesota. According to a filing with the Secretary of State's office, Lindell filed paperwork Wednesday to run for governor as a Republican. During an interview with Minnesota Public Radio, Lindell said that although he has not yet reached a final decision, he is strongly leaning toward entering the race. He said he's 98% sure he's going to do it, and he said he would be announcing either way on December the 11th. Christmas, a time that we celebrate the birth of our Savior. We don't know the day that he was born, but we sure do celebrate a Savior. And it's interesting to see what's happening in various cities across the country. Portland just had their tree lighting ceremony without mention of Christmas. The Post-Millennial has a story. What has historically been celebrated as Portland's annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony took a different tone last Friday night, drawing fierce criticism for removing nearly all references to Christmas while platforming political activism, including a Palestinian flag and chants of Free, Free Palestine from the main stage. The event was at Pioneer Courthouse Square. and this was the 41st annual tree lighting ceremony. And this was very interesting to see that takes place. And what a contrast to what took place in Washington, D.C. last night at the annual Christmas tree lighting. President Trump, his wife Melania were there. She hit the button to turn on the lights. And he spoke, 10, 12 minutes or so. I don't have time to play the entire speech, but I'm going to play 3 minutes from his speech that he gave last night. He had a prepared speech, and he'd divert from it now and then to make other comments. So just know this is edited, but it goes in sequential order as he spoke it last evening, taking out some of the side comments that he made along the way. But listen to what President Trump had to say last night at the tree lighting ceremony in D.C.
During this holy season, Christians everywhere rejoice at the miracle in Bethlehem more than 2,000 years ago, when the Son of God, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, came down from heaven to be with us. You're right. Full of grace and truth, he brought the gift of God's love into the world and the promise of salvation for every person and every nation. Tonight, this beautiful evergreen tree glows bright on the dark and cold winter night and reminds us of the words of Gospel of John, "In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind." Beautiful words. With the birth of Jesus, human history turned from night to day. His word and his example call us to love one another, to serve one another, and to honor the sacred truth that every child is specially made in the image of God. But America has stood tall in part because millions of our citizens have heeded that call, and the faith and service of Christians have been essential parts of America's strength from the very, very beginning. Incredible. We love the Christians. We love all religions. And by the way, religion is coming back to the USA. You see that very strongly. So this Christmas season, let me say thank you to everyone who serves the needy and lifts up the communities inspired by faith. Thank you to the police, law enforcement officers, first responders, ICE, and Border Patrol agents who risk their lives every day to defend the innocent, protect the good, and keep the evil and danger at bay. And thank you to the men and women of the United States military, including the brave heroes of our National Guard here in Washington, D.C., where we've set a record for lack of crime in 28 years. So as we prepare to celebrate the miracle of Christmas, we thank God for his many blessings, and together we rejoice at the true source of greatness, happiness, and strength. The good news is that glorious nights 2,000 years ago, think of it, 2,000 years ago, it was indeed a glorious night. So I want to thank everybody here. I want to pay my deepest respect and love to all of our great citizens, like 350 million people. We love them all. Whether you like them or not, we love them all. We want to take care of everybody. We have to take care of everybody in our country. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and have a good time. And you're going to see some great entertainment. Thank you very much, everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, no doubt how he considered the event last evening and recognized the birth of Jesus Christ. That taking place in Washington, D.C. at the tree lighting. Taking a look at some other news here from the Epoch Times, the U.S. Supreme Court has ordered late on December 4th that a redrawn election map expected to increase Republican representation in Texas's U.S. House delegation, that it remain in place. The court's new unsigned order was issued over the dissents of Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Justice Alito filed an opinion concurring in the order. Justices Clarence Thomas, Gorsuch as well joined the concurrence at vote 63, upholding the Texas election map. We understand there's still some things going on in the courts, but they're getting close to the wire for filings and everything else going on for November 2026 election, so that remains in place here at this time. Also from justthenews.com, the Indiana State House Friday, that is today, approved a new slate of congressional maps that tilts all 9 congressional districts in favor of the GOP. The map passed 57 to 41. The move sends the bill to the state Senate. Michigan News Source reporting that the Michigan Court of Claims ruled on Wednesday that election inspectors cannot count absentee ballots if the identifying number on the ballot stub does not match the number on the return envelope. In addition, the stub cannot be missing. The court's basis for its ruling stems from a 2024 amended statute. The law is simple. Ballot stubs must match, and incomplete ballots cannot be counted, said Republican National Committee Chair Joe Gruters. From Just the News, the Trump administration is on track to compel more than half the states in America to clean up their voter rolls and believes sloppiness that left dead people and non-citizens in a position to vote in Democrat-run states is intentional. The sloppiness of the Americans in blue states is no accident. It's on purpose. It's a feature, not a bug, said Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Harmeet Dillon, who told this to Just the News. And the goal is to cram as many people on there and make voters who are not particularly engaged, make it easy for someone else to help them fill out their ballots and return it for them when they didn't care enough to do it themselves. Dillon said her office is now on track to force, through litigation, settlement, or voluntary efforts, at least 26 states to clean up voter rolls. And they have the litigation going in 14 states, saying they're close to resolution. Well, that's not the only state. Here's the headline: large-scale voter fraud rocks Michigan. The Geller report reports that serious questions are mounting in Michigan as state lawmakers are raising alarms over what they described as large-scale voter registration irregularities. State Senator Johnson has publicly warned that Michigan's election system is wide open for abuse, pointing directly to the Help America vote verification system. According to Johnson, roughly 100,000 people registered to vote in Michigan last year, and 36% of them, about 36,000 applicants, submitted invalid 4-digit Social Security matches, yet were still allowed to complete the registration. He said this should never happen. If those numbers cannot be verified, the registration should not go through, period. Johnson also claims that Michigan's voter rolls now contain around 500,000 more registered voters than the state has voting age adults. From Just the News, California's top elected officials announced a new online portal Wednesday with the state purpose of having members of the public share information with the state's Department of Justice about potentially unlawful activity by federal agents and officers across the state. Governor Newsom and Attorney General Bonta issued a press release from the governor's office acknowledging that federal agents have broad authority to enforce federal laws, including federal immigration laws, but adding they must do so lawfully. From Fox News, President Trump announced last Friday that he is terminating all documents allegedly signed by former President Joe Biden with the AutoPen. In a Truth Social post, the president claimed 92% of documents signed during the Biden presidency were done so with the device. The AutoPen, he said, is not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given by the President of the United States. The people who operated the AutoPen did so illegally, stated President Trump. From HeadlineUSA.com, last Sunday, Israel launched the attack on the Lebanese capital city of Beirut, hitting an apartment complex and killing Hezbollah figure Haytham Ali Tabaratati, along with several other people. It was one of the most high-profile attacks on Beirut in recent months. In the course of the strike, Israel dropped multiple Boeing-made small-diameter bombs, and one of those bombs, according to the report, did not explode. According to Lebanese officials, the U.S. has demanded that Lebanon return the unexploded bomb to them. Reportedly, this is about the bomb's guidance system reviewing the possibility of it falling into another country's hands as a security risk. It's referred to as a glide bomb, relatively low-cost guided bomb with a high explosive payload. It's been favored by the IDF for use against targets in densely populated areas. Also, we have from Worthy News, Israel formally delivered its Arrow 3 long-range defense missile system, defense system to German Air Force on Wednesday, completing a landmark $4.6 billion deal. It's the largest defense export agreement in Israel's history. Worthy Christian News is reporting that President Trump is preparing to unveil Gaza's long-awaited Board of Peace and formally announced the transition to Phase 2 of Washington's Gaza stabilization plan within the next 3 weeks. Officials say the administration is working to finalize the framework before the holiday recess. The proposed Board of Peace will include roughly 10 Arab and Western leaders and sit above an international executive board composed of former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, Jared Kushner, U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff, and senior representatives from participating nations. Under the U.S. plan, Hamas must relinquish control of Gaza and begin a phased disarmament, starting with heavy weapons before eventually surrendering lighter arms. We'll see if that ever comes to pass. By the way, from Jihad Watch, there are 15 million Kurds in Iran, and they constitute nearly 70% of Iran's population, and they want a separate Kurdish state. So that's another issue that will be going on there in the Middle East. Let's see. Worthy News reporting President Trump hosted the leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo Thursday to sign the Washington Accords. It's a peace pact that the three leaders say will end a 30-year conflict in eastern Congo, even as fighting continues on the ground. The ceremony, held at the newly renamed Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, finalized months of U.S.-backed negotiations following a preliminary agreement signed at the White House in June. The deal establishes a permanent ceasefire, disarmament of non-state forces, pathways for refugees' return, and a framework for justice and economic cooperation. The president hailed the agreement as a breakthrough, saying it's a great day for Africa, a great day for the world. We'll be back in 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk.
Often, the sounds of traditional Christmas carols are missing this time of year. The secularization in our society does not want to recognize those carols which point to the Christ of Christmas. VCY America is making available Sounds of Christmas, Volumes 3, 5, and 6. The various selection of Sounds of Christmas features the music of the season as played by Vic Eliason on the digital piano, Hammond organ, and Allen organ. Songs like Go Tell It on the Mountain, O Little Town of Bethlehem, and Joy to the World. These instrumental CDs are perfect for playing in your home, office, or car throughout the season. Each volume of Sounds of Christmas is available for a donation of $6 each, or all three for a donation of $15 to VCY America. Call 1-800-729-9829 and have a Merry Christmas.
It's a news roundup day here on Crosstalk. Lots of different topics and stories coming from all over, but to keep us abreast of some of the matters taking place around the world and in our nation as well, with a reminder to be praying for our leaders, whether there's an R or a D behind their name. Be praying for them, and Scripture tells us to do so that we might lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. How critically important that is for such a time as this. By the way, yesterday we had Rich Cristiano on Crosstalk and had just a wonderful response to those who had wanted to get those that DVD pack, those 4 DVDs. Our switchboard, again, we do not use a call center, and so our staff here was handling a couple lines coming into our main offices, and if you called to get a busy signal or not successful in getting through, please know that Cristiano 4-pack of DVDs still available. You can go to vcy.org. You'll find it there, vcy.org, or by calling 800-729-9829. That was a 4-pack of DVDs that we discussed yesterday for a donation of $35 or more. And Lord willing, the mail pickup today is going to see many, many of these sets going out in the mail. Continuing with our news roundup today, HumanEvents.com reporting that Ukraine struck 2 Russian oil tankers from Russia's Shadow Fleet as the vessels traveled through the Black Sea using waterborne Sea Baby drones operated by Ukraine's security services. Both ships reportedly part of Russia's Shadow Fleet. That's a network of hundreds of tankers used by Russia to bypass sanctions imposed after the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. The fleet is made up largely of older vessels with obscure ownership structures. President Putin, according to NewsNationNow.com, has warned Europe on Tuesday that it would face swift defeat if it went to war with Russia and dismiss European proposals on Ukraine. A leaked set of 28 U.S. draft peace proposals emerged last week. European powers then came up with a counter-proposal for peace. In the talks in Geneva, the U.S. and Ukraine said that they had created an updated and defined peace framework to end the war. Even as President Trump spoke last night, he is hoping for peace between Russia and Ukraine, but certainly you've got some pretty hard heads on both sides of this matter here, and whether or not it's going to be achieved remains to be seen. From PJ Media, this is really troublesome, and those of you listening in Wilmington, Delaware, this from, again, PJ Media. At the University of Delaware, a routine traffic stop turned into something much more significant and potentially deadly. A 25-year-old undergraduate student discovered to have had with him a machine gun, over 100 rounds of ammo, an armored ballistic plate, and a notebook with details about how he was planning a violent attack on campus police. This is Luqman Khan. He was born in Pakistan, now a citizen of the U.S. NBC Philadelphia reported Tuesday that the drama began Monday when police initiated a traffic stop after he allegedly was found operating a vehicle after hours. When the police officers stopped him, he was visibly nervous, asked him to step out of the car, but he refused, resisted arrest. Once they searched his vehicle, they could see why he was uncooperative. In an investigation of the vehicle, they discovered a loaded .357 Glock with 27 rounds of ammunition, 3 additional fully loaded 27-round magazines. They also found ammunition for a 9mm handgun with an armored ballistic plate in the vehicle. They found a notebook in the vehicle that included handwritten details of additional weapons and ammunition and how they could be used in an attack. The notebook was filled with information on how someone could hide from law enforcement following such an attack, and referenced a member of the University of Delaware Police Department by name, and included a layout of a building with entry and exit points. Also, when police searched his home in Wilmington, Delaware, they found some other items as well, some other handguns and so forth. From the Free Beacon, the scientific journal Nature has retracted a bombshell study predicting that climate change would cause economic catastrophe after economists found that the report had significant errors. Well, what do you know? Nature retracted the story Wednesday after a team of economists found significant flaws in the data that the New York Times reported. The study, released in April of 2024 by researchers at the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research, found that climate change would not only cost the global economy $38 trillion by 2049, but also slashed the global economic output 62% by the year 2100, a far higher figure than earlier research had found. So the authors acknowledge that these changes are too substantial for a correction. Before the official retraction, a Nature editor's note posted last month alerted readers that the reliability of data and methodology presented in this manuscript is currently in question. Troubling news, Pamela Geller reported here. A 34-year-old woman was raped to death on the front steps of a Nashville church, in public, under streetlights, caught in progress by firefighters. Her accused killer was a 39-year-old Somali repeat offender with multiple identities and 16 prior charges for sexual battery, indecent exposure, trespass, drug offenses, and more. News has just been referring to this Mohammed guy as a Tennessee man. His status as a Somali immigrant was mentioned in some social media discussions related to the news, but not explicitly confirmed in the official police press releases or in primary news sources as they gathered the information. And Nashville's justice system? Well, evidently he was dropped or dismissed 15 of these charges. They also gave him $5,000 bond on a sexual battery and let him roam free until a woman ended up dead on a church sidewalk. The NewAmerican.com reporting the illegal alien police officer whom ICE arrested in October, back on the job and packing a gun in defiance of federal law. This is Radul Bocevic, an illegal from Montenegro. whom far-left officials in Hanover Park, Illinois, that's a suburb of Chicago, thought that should be a cop. Obvious his disregard of federal law. This unusual happened to Judge Freedom, and the Hanover Park put him back to work on the job. Friends, earlier we played the clip from the tree lighting ceremony, the Christmas tree lighting ceremony in Washington, D.C. We talked about what's going on in Portland, but it should be a reminder to us what is taking place in Europe. Muslims stormed the Belgium Christmas market and beheaded baby Jesus. Now, we understand that this is a statue. It is not really Jesus, but it's the depiction. It's what it represents. And I just want you to hear a report that came out from GB News on this issue to see Islam's impact as it continues its wave through Europe.
Head of the baby Jesus was decapitated at a nativity scene, then stolen overnight after a pro-Palestine mob gate-crashed Brussels Christmas markets and chanted Hamas slogans in the street. The mayor of Brussels confirmed the head of the figurine of Jesus was stolen after being decapitated by an unknown culprit who took off with the head but left the body in place Friday night. The mayor's spokesman said they would replace the baby Jesus' head. The opening of the Christmas markets and switch on of the lights at the main square was gate-crashed by a mob of pro-Palestine protesters. In this video, they can be seen chanting pro-Hamas slogans and letting off smoke bombs as families tried to enjoy the Christmas festivities. The Brussels nativity scene has been target for similar acts of vandalism over the years. In 2017, the entire baby Jesus doll was stolen, never to be recovered. In 2014, protesters removed the Christ child's head, and in 2015, 3 youths vandalised the scene overnight. This year's nativity is believed to have cost Brussels €60,000 and will remain on display until the 4th of January, and was already subject to controversy. The council had removed the use of the term Christmas from the display, opting instead to call the scene Winter Wonders in order to be more inclusive. This was unable to deter the pro-Palestine mob who brandished the Palestinian flag as it barged onto the square and let off the smoke bombs. Fears have been raised over the security of celebrations across Europe in the run-up to Christmas. Markets across Germany, France and the UK have seen barriers erected around the perimeter, and armed police are set to guard them.
And that again coming from GB News. Now, isn't that interesting? You know, we don't want to say the word Christmas anymore. Instead, you know, they wanted they changed the words to Winter Wonder to be more inclusive. Well, friends, what has that done? It just shows that those who are in opposition feel like that they are making progress and making a movement in all of this. And that taking place in Belgium. But, friends, it's happening in many places. Many Christmas markets in Germany and other places have been stopped, have been canceled this year for fear of security. We see the influx of Islam and where things are going. Friends, we've had an important case this week before the U.S. Supreme Court as it relates to New Jersey. And I'm going to play a brief audio clip from the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas as he is giving questions here to the Attorney General's office there that is defending this, going after pregnancy care centers, and they wanted a donor list. They wanted all kinds of information on advertising, believing that they were giving out false information. But not one complaint was filed against this pro-life center. Listen to the questioning.
Did you have complaints that formed the basis of your concern about the fundraising activities here?
We certainly had complaints about crisis pregnancy centers that petition.
No, about this crisis pregnancy center.
So I think we've been clear from the outset that we haven't had complaints about this specific.
So you had no basis to think that they were deceiving any of their contributors?
I don't think that's correct, Your Honor. I think we had carefully canvassed all of the public information that is provided on the website of First Choice in making a determination that we wanted to initiate an investigation.
But you had no factual basis?
I don't think that's true, Your Honor. I think, for example, you could take a look at a comparison between the donation page for First Choice that we have carved out from the very beginning.
So you had no complainants?
We had no complaints, but the state governments, federal government, initiate investigations all the time in the absence of complaints where they have a reason to suspect that there could be potential issues of legal compliance. And look, it could be the case based on our investigation, when we look at documents, when we look at information, that ultimately will determine that First Choice isn't liable for any violation
well,
of the law.
that just seemed to be a burdensome way to find out whether someone has a confusing website. But you said earlier that you did not agree with their characterization of why they were being put to this. And it would seem that the obvious way to refute that was to say we had 100 complaints. But you say you have no complaints, but rather you looked at the website and their materials and you think it could have been misleading. So why is your characterization any better than theirs?
So, Your Honor, I'd point you to the Turner Declaration, which is at pages 400 to 401 of the Joint Appendix, which lays out the predicate for the state's investigation of First Choice. And we had concerns in 4 buckets. We had concerns about potentially misleading donors. We had concerns about the unlicensed practice of medicine. We had concerns about patient privacy practices. And we had concerns about potentially misleading or untrue medical statements. So I think we had a more than ample basis to initiate this investigation.
But you had no complainants.
We had no complaints, but I think that, Your Honor, that goes at most to the merits. That doesn't go to the standing analysis.
Very interesting. No complaints, but yet their case going all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Friends, we're going to open our phone lines. If you'd like to comment on these or other current event stories here in our final segment, our number 800-733-9829. We'll be back in a minute.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. Recently, I was listening to the interview again between Norman Dodd and my friend G. Edward Griffin. Norman Dodd was the chief investigator for a congressional committee in the 1950s known as the Reese Committee. They were investigating how major foundations like the Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, Carnegie Foundation were reportedly using their funds to grab up historians to write textbooks for America's students, to not teach the Constitution or the idea of individuality, but the idea of collectivism. And when he was asked why these foundations were doing that, he said, well, it's for a couple reasons. One is they want to redo the Revolutionary War, to roll America back into being a part of Europe and to roll us into the Soviet Union. Well, this seems to fit with Bible prophecy, does it not? A Eurocentric world government. But he also said they wanted to create a administrative state, America into a corporation. That sounds like technocracy.
Our number for Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. LifeSiteNews.com tells us Zoran Mamdani, soon to be sworn in as New York City's next mayor. Well, he pledges to make New York City an LGBTQ plus sanctuary. And meanwhile, also the World Health Organization has recently called for free and easy access to embryo-destroying in vitro fertilization for everyone, including those in gender-diverse relationships. That's right, the World Health Organization demanding IVF for homosexuals and people in gender-diverse relationships. Let's go to the phone lines here today. We're going to begin with Mark calling in from Monroe. Mark, you're on the air.
Hey, Jim. My comment is, we all talk about artificial intelligence. Where I'm going with this is I'm just as concerned with what I would call the artificial presidency that we had under Joe Biden. And by that, I'm referring to the auto pen, because for 4 years, I mean, how many fingerprints would be found on that auto pen, which I think would be considered illegal, and we, the people, were being duped for 4 years. And hopefully maybe this pipe bomb thing will be a springboard to link all the J6 in what I consider the illegal, the stolen election, how we had to deal with all this nonsense for 4 years because, again, I don't think Joe Biden was running the White House. It was whoever was using the auto pen to make all the decisions. So, long story short, that's what I got to say.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for the call. And let me just say this, that there were, those who were called in to testify, and they pleaded the fifth every single time. Those that were involved, evidently, in the auto pen decisions. Who authorized them? And many things that President Biden had no idea what was going on. Somebody was authorizing them. And not only that, but on legislation as well. We played a clip before on the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, and when he had a personal visit with the president at that time, President Biden said, I didn't do that. He said, yes, here's your signature on it. And, so much needs to still come forth from it. President Trump putting a block on, by executive orders, I have no idea the legalities of President Trump's action and stopping all of those or how that's going to work its way out in the courts. But good to hear from you today. Let's go to Greg in Bloomington, Illinois. Greg, you're on the air.
Hey, Brother Jim, you were talking about the billboards that were trying to influence our servicemen.
Mm-hmm.
The Uniform Code of Military Justice, specifically 18 U.S. Code 2387, whoever with intent to interfere with, impair, or influence the loyalty, morale, or discipline of the military or naval forces of the United States advises, counsels, urges, or in any manner causes or attempts to cause insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty by any member of the military or naval forces of the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both, and shall be ineligible for employment by the United States or any department or agency thereof for 5 years following his conviction. Mr. Kelly should know that. He's a retired Navy captain, and we need to follow the UCMJ.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you. You have a good weekend now.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate the comments here today. Let's 800-733-9829, Jersey City, New Jersey. Marilyn, you're on the air. Hello, Marilyn.
Yes.
You're on the air. Marilyn, please go ahead. Don't listen to your radio.
Oh, okay. Okay. What I would like to say is that regarding the baby Jesus being.
Marilyn, don't listen to your radio. Listen to your phone. Everybody's hearing you. You're being confused by the delay.
Okay. Jesus being decapitated.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would like to say.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to discontinue Marilyn because, again, friends, when you call, there is delay in the program, and Marilyn's confused listening over the radio versus what we're talking here on the phone. So we apologize to Marilyn for that, but she's very confused as to being caught up by the radio. By the way, LifeNews.com is reporting a federal judge Tuesday has blocked President Trump's administration from cutting off Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood in 22 states and also to Washington, D.C. This is a Judge Talwani, an Obama appointee in Massachusetts, and she's one who filed an injunction against a provision in the One Big Beautiful Bill that the measure bars Medicaid reimbursements to tax-exempt organizations that kill babies in abortions and receive more than $800,000 in such funds. So the ruling applies to a coalition of 22 states led by California, Connecticut, and New York, plus the nation's capital. Likely, this, too, is going to make its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, let's go next to Bob in Milwaukee. Bob, you're on the air.
I heard you say earlier that God is in control. What does that mean?
That indeed, that God is sovereign over the affairs of men. What he has before ordained is going to come to pass. God sets up.
So does that mean that whatever happens is under the auspices of God?
God will certainly allow things to take place. I mean, we saw sin introduced into the world. That was not God's desire for that to happen. He created man with a free will in that regard. but what God has before ordained indeed is going to come to pass. I'm sorry, you got extra noise coming in there. That what he has stated is going to take place. We are going to have judgment upon this earth, and it is going to come. He is no doubt aligning nations. As many have said, the stage is being set for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. We've got Evan very quickly out of Saxon. You're on the air, Evan.
It's actually Kevin. Jim,
Kevin,
thanks so much. I'll try to do this really quick. I really appreciate how you guys have been so consistent. We live in a day and time where things aren't really consistent, and, you know, a lot of people are in turmoil inside over everything going on. But I want to thank you personally because you've been so consistent with this. But let me get to the other point.
I tell you what, our theme music is flowing. Our theme is going right now, so we're out of time. Thank you, Evan, though, for your call. Glad you're listening. Continue to keep us in your prayers. Friends, we are out of time on the program today. We thank you for tuning in today and all this week. And we would just encourage you to stay in prayer for our nation, our president. And by the way, it's Friday. The Lord's Day is coming. Trust you'll be in a Bible-believing, Bible-teaching local church.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.